4 in the morning, you got me up all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you're right enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say, we gon' be okay, we just gotta boom bada boom ba. I don't wanna fight, you know that I'm right. Baby, let me talk to your body. We gon' be okay, hear me when I say.
Umar Johnson, the man who has 2 children by 2 different women that he never married. Dr. Umar Johnson, the guy that for the last 10 years has not built brick one of a school he's collected money from. Dr. Umar, hold on, ma'am. Dr. Umar Johnson, the man who calls you queen, mother, goddess, and all this other kind of stuff. And again, for those who are keeping score, this is another woman who comes on and says, talk to us more like Umar. The Prince of Pan-Africanism. Big Papa's in the house. Run my donations. I mean, shout out to Umar. I ain't got no problem with the dude, but I think it's funny y'all keep coming over here asking everybody to talk like Umar.
I want to ask you guys a question, the ones in the audience. Do Black men in America have an issue with being heard? And do they have an issue with having their needs met? It appears that from this expose that Kevin Samuels did recently against Umar Johnson, I'm not going to say against, but he gave his own points of reference, talking about the 12 YouTubians that have more or less started their own platforms, and some have started their own platforms due to the fact that a lot of Black men feel like they're not being heard. As a clinical professional, I know that some of this stuff is true because I feel like a lot of Black men are not heard. And often men in my practice have said that when they were in circles that are more or less more female dominated, they felt like their voices weren't being heard, or sometimes their qualms were more or less being reduced. But I want you guys to listen to this show. And I want you guys to give me some input to who you feel is right and how and what Kevin Samuels actually said. Does he have any merit? Do Black men have a voice in America? Do American men have a voice? And if not, tell me what your points are as we continue to listen.
Queen Mother Garland, cocoa butter and sea moss gold and shit.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Now, let me say this, because I've been getting questions about these Black male life coaches, these uncredentialed, uncertified, untrained, YouTubian Black male life coaches. I'm not here to knock nobody. I don't know how anybody feeds their children. I don't know how they keep a roof over their head.
And see, guys, this is what happens. You know, anytime men more or less vocalize their concerns, it's always a backlash. You know, I clearly don't believe that you have to be a licensed professional like myself in order to have anecdotal evidence that there are issues in our community that more or less impact us in a negative way. And so normally, anytime someone say anything to the contrary, this is the backlash. You have to be credentialed, wear your credentials. But I don't think anyone needs any credentials to see the malaise that we have in our current society. As a clinical professional, I've seen it and heard many men concerned, more or less complain about the things that they're struggling with. And so I like both men, Kevin and Umar, but it appears that one appears to be pandering to our women. Even though men and women both need accountability, it appears to be some pandering. So please listen.
I don't know how they keep food in their body. I'm not here to knock anybody's hustle. I'm not here to knock anybody's hustle because I don't know how they feed their children. I've had people try to destroy my profession, my professional career as a certified school psychologist, my professional career as a clinician and a therapist. I've had people try to destroy that because they didn't agree with my political platform. I've had people try to destroy that. So I will never attack another Black man's ability to feed his family. Even with the gangster rappers, I will not attack their ability to feed their family. But I do want to say this to the Black women out there. I'm disappointed in a lot of my sisters. I am disappointed in a lot of Black women because I thought that our sisterhood was evolving to a place that would not tolerate. I thought black sisterhood was evolving to a place that would not tolerate slander and degradation of black women on any level for any reason. I thought, black sisters, that you guys were getting to a place, you sisters, you queens, my beautiful black goddesses, I thought you all were evolving to a place where you would not approve of Eurocentric slander and degradation and debasement and undue attacks on your integrity as a black woman. But I'm seeing black women, out of their thirst for male validation, entertain some of these Negroes who have no history of organizing in the black community. They have no history of fighting for our children.
And see, guys, this is the consternation once again. And I did this show because a lot of men were talking about it, but I wanted to attack it from a cognitive distortion called overgeneralization. And so when you attack men, because many men have started platforms, professional men like myself, lawyers, attorneys, or whatever, they've started these platforms to more or less articulate and share the concerns that a lot of men are having. And so when this brother says, you call other men or castigate other men and call them, YouTubian simps or whatever he called them, it makes me wonder, because it makes me wonder, is this brother being this negative because, he's losing his visibility, or does he have some true concerns against black men that are more or less speaking out and sharing their concerns? I want you to keep listening.
They have no activism resume at all. Why would you subject yourself to that level of insult? Why would you subject yourself to that level of degradation and undue criticism from a complete stranger? Because you're looking for male validation. That's why we need the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. See, when this gym is fully restored, I'm going to offer some sisterhood circles. Dr. Umar is going to offer some sisterhood circles right inside of this gymnasium. I'm going to offer some sisterhood circles right inside this gymnasium where I'm going to speak positivity and strength to our black women. I'm going to speak positivity.
And that's why the 12 YouTubians that he's talking about is actually formulated. Because, unfortunately, I grew up in church. The black church has told a lot of women what they wanted to hear. And then also panderers have told women what they want to hear. The Derek Jacksons of the world. Look what Derek Jackson said about black men, and he was doing contrary to what he actually said. And so I respect Umar, I do, but I'm concerned about him castigating other brothers without understanding what they're saying. Making money and lying to our women is one of the biggest forms of chicanery that ever exist. And so when you don't tell people the truth, you lose their confidence. And so a lot of people are going to Kevin Samuels, whether you like him or not is irrelevant, because they feel like he has a message that's getting women the outcomes that they deserve and want. Now, there have been qualms about Kevin saying whether or not he's fake or whatever, but that's irrelevant. His methods are working. So keep listening to what he's saying.
The sun has come out. Woo-hoo! Woo! Mama Oshun is here, baby. Mama Oshun is here. Orumila is here. Look at the sun. It just rained cats and dogs, and now look. The sun is shining on the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. The sun is shining. When we have our cookout, we're going to put a bunch of benches and tables out here for the cookout. We're going to have a lot of benches and tables right here in the Anna Douglas Amy Garvey Park. We're going to have a lot of benches out here in the Anna Douglas and Amy Garvey Park, brothers and sisters. But I'm going to have a lot of This is your campus. Thank you for helping me buy this for our children. This is going to be the center of black organizing in North America as soon as the renovations are done. But we're going to have some sisterhood circles. Dr. Umar is going to host some sisterhood circles where I can speak power and strength into black women. I'm going to speak power and strength. This is the Frederick Douglass High School you're looking at. I'm going to speak power and strength into our beautiful African sisters. That's right. I'm going to build you up. And what makes it so bad about these so-called life coaches, some of them actually regurgitate a lot of Dr. Umar talking points. People send me clips. People send me clips of some of these YouTubian opportunist so-called life coaches, and I'm seeing some of them quote me verbatim without giving credit to their source. And some of them claim to not even like me. So why are you quoting my material and not referencing me? You obviously watch me. You obviously watch me because too much of my material is coming out of your mouth. It's a whole group. There's at least 12. I think I've counted 12 different YouTubian beta male wannabe life coaches that are out there slandering black women, attacking black women, degrading black women. I count about a dozen. I'm going to call them the dirty dozen of division. The triple D, the dirty dozen of division. There's about 12 members of the dirty dozen of division, 12 beta males, YouTube life coaches who are trying to build a platform by making black women feel bad. I don't like it. I can't appreciate black men trying to make a dollar off of making black women feel bad. And unfortunately, our black women.
Are these guys, the so-called YouTubers, trying to make black women feel bad, or they're more or less trying to cease their delusions? I think it's very important that when men love, they tell our women the truth. And so to cease and say that, you know, we're telling black women lies, I think that's an overstatement. I think for so long, too many people have told our women lies. Keep listening.
Some of them are so thirsty for validation that they're participating. They're participating in the attacks and slander against the black female community, and that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. No black woman should ever subject herself, even for amusement, even for amusement, even for amusement. The black woman should never subject herself to another man's condemnation. And what makes the condemnation so ridiculous for me, it's mostly superficial. Most of the assessment is superficial, brothers and sisters. It's superficial. You weigh too much. You don't have the right body type. You don't have enough education. You don't.
But for so many years, guys, and I think some of the younger guys, especially your Generation X or millennials, you guys remember a time when you were growing up that you're dusty, you're short, you're broke, you're a bum. You know, songs like I don't want no scrub, a scrub can't get no love from me. And see, that's the hypocrisy that I hate. You know, it's almost like young black men or men in general, or whatever color the man, we can't have standards. I'm okay with women saying what they want to have. A woman has a right to say what she prefers in a man, but men have a right to say the same thing. But it appears that, you know, once again, I like Umar, that he's being very disingenuous in this particular pronouncement. Because for so many years, black men have been overgeneralized, saying we're all the same. If you grew up like I did in the 90s, you heard it. So guys, keep listening, because we're going to have a discussion after the show. And after the show, click on the link and let's have a discussion as it relates to black men. Thank you.
Make enough money. This is European standards. This isn't African. That's not who we are. And black women are subjecting themselves for this because they want a black man so bad to publicly validate them. They're taking a chance at being totally humiliated because they're so thirsty to have a black man publicly validate them. That's why you're doing this, black woman. See, I want you to understand and overstand. The same reason you go on these YouTubian beta male so-called life coaching platforms, the same reason you go on these YouTubian beta male so-called life coaching platforms is the same reason you stay in abusive relationships. It's the same reason black women stay in abusive relationships. It's the same reason black women stay. Why do black women stay in a relationship where she's being exploited sexually, emotionally, or financially? Why doesn't the black woman leave? Talk to me, black women. We're talking about the unconscious psychology of abuse of our sisters. We're talking about the unconscious psychology of why black women would rather stay. Because a lot of black women feel that if a man does not validate me, I'm not good enough as a woman. And some of our sisters' self-esteem are so low that they will stay with any man just to feel like a woman. That's where this comes from, black woman. That's why I'm working on my For Sisters Only relationships and dating book right now. That's why I'm working on my For Sisters Only relationships and dating book right now, because I want you sisters to understand what makes you get on YouTube and let a man destroy you like that. What makes you get on YouTube and reveal your private business to an absolute stranger? What makes you get into a relationship and let a man walk all over you? This is that fatherlessness. This is that fatherless little girl inside of you that cries out for validation by any means necessary. This is the abused little girl inside of you whose father wasn't there to pour love and pour strength and pour abundance into your soul. And now you're running around looking for validation, and you will let the most unqualified and uncertified. You will let the most unqualified and uncertified. You will let the most unqualified and uncertified YouTubian beta male tear you apart in front of your peers, because you just hoping that this one time you will get publicly validated. And you think that if you get publicly validated, if you think that you get publicly validated, you might feel better about yourself. And I'm here to tell you that the mind loves to play tricks on you. Your mind loves to play tricks on you. That's right. Your mind wants you to think that if you can get one of these YouTubian beta males to validate you publicly, your self-esteem will go up, but it won't. These are the games the unconscious plays on your mind, black woman. These are the games that your unconscious plays on your mind, black woman. Don't let your mind play games on you. Don't let that little girl inside of you who was victimized as a child. Don't let that little girl inside of you that was victimized by your first husband. Don't let that little girl inside of you.
Listen, we know that many girls, boys, and men have been victimized. And a lot of times girls get their validation from their fathers. Well, I think it's a stretch and an overreach to more or less presume that because black women are going on, or women in general, are going on men's platforms to get input, that they're looking for validation because they didn't get it from their fathers. I think a lot of women are opening up and trying to realize that men do love them, but a true man is going to tell you the truth. He's not going to tell you what you want to hear. Sadly, similar to what some of our churches have done. And shout out to the good churches. There are great churches that tell the truth, and there are great brothers that are listening to this show tonight that actually tell the truth. But as a clinical therapist, until you get out of the formality of denial, you can never move forward. Until you peel those layers back, you can never move forward. So I want you guys to keep listening, and we're going to have a show afterwards, okay?
That was sexually assaulted or physically assaulted by her mother's boyfriend. Don't let the pain of that little girl, don't let the pain of your inner child, black woman, don't let the inner child run your life. See, black woman, I want you to understand something. When you read For Sisters Only book, you're going to learn about that little girl that every black woman got living inside of her. And that little girl is scarred and hurt. All of what you've been through as a little girl, all the sexual molestations you've been through as a little girl, the sexual abuse and exploitations you've been through as a little girl, the relationships you've been in that did not turn out right. That little girl in you is trying to heal, but she doesn't know how to heal. So she's motivating you to get involved in dysfunctional relationships and dysfunctional situations to get your unmet needs met. That's right. When you find yourself going on these YouTube platforms to let uncredentialed, uncertified people, when you go on these YouTube platforms to let uncredentialed strangers evaluate you, that's the little girl in you. That's the little girl in you crying out for validation. And I'm telling you, sister, if your father is still alive, if your father figure is still alive, if your uncle or grandfather is still alive, if you have a pastor who ain't trying to get in your panties, if you have a pastor who ain't trying to get in your panties, you can have a conversation with a man who doesn't have a sexual interest in you. You can have a conversation with a man who doesn't have a sexual interest in you to help get those unmet needs. See, every woman in the world, but we're talking about our queens. Every woman in the world, but we're talking about our queens. Every woman in the world needs a man who loves her without any interest of sexual intercourse. Listen to me well, black woman. In order for you to be healthy, you have to have a man you can go to.
But see, here's a hypocrisy once again, which is a cognitive distortion. It's a thinking error called minimization, where this brother is minimizing his role and what he's done. You have two kids, two women that you call queens that you've never married. You was complicit in dealing with what's called a conscious stripper. And see, this is the hypocrisy that a lot of men are saying. The reason why these platforms are being started, because we can't get consistent truth. And because of that, a lot of men are suffering in silence, but a lot of our women are suffering in silence too, because they're not getting their needs met as well. I'm a kind of man that I'd rather tell a man or woman the truth than to lie to them and tell them what they want to hear. But we live in a society of simplification. When you try to convey the truth to many, they don't want to hear it. And so when I hear this brother saying this kind of nonsense, you know, he's a Leo like me. I'm a Leo. And Leo's got huge egos. But I'm a balanced Leo. I know how to balance things out. And when I hear this brother saying this stuff, man, it sounds very delusional. It sounds like a thinking error to me. Because the evidence to the contrary is that Dr. Umar has been complicit in having two kids out of wedlock. He never married either of those women. And also he was complicit in dealing with the stripper that he called a conscious stripper, where he wasn't really helping her son out. So it sounds very hypocritical to me, but keep listening.
And get emotional healing and support. And that man is so secure in his manhood and so in control of his hormones and his root chakra. See, black men, we got to get our root chakras under control. The black man has to get his root chakra. Black men, the reason why some of us are so hypersexual is our root chakra is out of control. We have to get our root chakras under control if we really want to serve the black sisterhood. I'm going to say it again. We got to get our root chakras under control so that we can be of better use to our women. Because every black woman needs a man that she can depend on for emotional support that doesn't lead to sexual abuse. And I'm using sexual abuse in the general sense, not having sexually raped or anything, but having sex with a woman who really don't need sex can be a form of sex abuse. Having sex with a woman who really don't need sex, who's looking for love, that can be considered a form of sexual abuse, brothers and sisters. And so black men have to get our root chakras under control, so when sisters come to us, we can say to ourselves, not to her, this is a beautiful sister, but she don't need me for that. She don't need me for that. She need me to be a man right now. She needs me to be a non-sexual man. She needs masculine energy that does not have any sexual agenda tied to it. Women often need masculine love and emotion that doesn't have any physical intimacy tied to it. And I'm going to say this to all the black men listening. I'm going to say this to all the black men listening. I'm going to say this to all the black men listening. Until you are strong enough to love a woman without sticking your Shango stick, until you can say, Dr. Umar, I know some women who are beautiful and got a lot going for them. But because I know I don't really mean them no good, or because I know they really looking for a husband right now and not just a friend, or because I know I have enough women on my rotation as it is, because I know I have enough queens in my queendom, although I would love to experience this, sister, I'm going to be a real alpha male today. I'm going to be a real alpha male today, and I am not going to let that sister walk into a trap where she's looking for masculine validation but ends up getting taken advantage of by another male. I'm going to let her know, sister, I'm not going to sleep with you. You're beautiful, you're drop dead gorgeous, but I know you're looking for more. And because I know you're looking for more, I'm never going to touch you. We are never going to go there. I'm going to be the man you can come to when you need to have a conversation about other men. I'm going to be the man you can come to and get a hug, a real tight hug, and it not lead to nothing else. Black men, part of being masculine is being able to turn that root chakra down, turn down that root chakra energy, and just be a brother to a sister. In order to be an alpha male, in my definition, part of being an alpha male is being emotionally available to black women in need of positive masculinity without it leading to a sexual escapade. Part of being an alpha male, in my definition, part of being an alpha male, in my definition, is being emotionally available to a woman without allowing the relationship to descend into an empty sexual escapade. That's where we got to get, black men. America has made us too hypersexual. America has made us too hypersexual. America has made us, as black men, all men, but I'm talking to my brothers, America has made us hypersexual. And ever since slavery, 400 years, the black man has been trained to sexually objectify the black woman. For 400 years, the black man has been trained by the slave master to sexually objectify the black woman's body and the black woman herself. For some of us, the black woman is nothing more than an object of sexual satisfaction. For many of us, the black woman is nothing more than an object of sexual satisfaction. That comes from the...
See, here's the issue with the trauma and the pathology that a lot of men are having. Boys get raped at a high rate, just like a lot of times women do. Boys get sexually abused and sexually misused. I've seen it in clinical practice. But the issue is a lot of times the pain and the hurts of men are minimized. And so for this brother to say, you know, our women are objectified, some of the objectification is self-induced. And on top of that, a lot of the objectification, you know, for years, who's the Mandingo warrior? That's the objectification of that man's phallus. But see, that's the hypocrisy that I see in here. And that's why these 12 utopians came up with platforms, because men were not being heard and given the credence and the respect that they need. Keep listening.
Slave empire. That is part of post-traumatic slavery disease. If you are a black man and the main worth of a woman to you is her sexual 'abilities, then you suffer from post-traumatic slavery disease. Now, don't get me wrong. Black women are gorgeous. I love 5'5" thick in the thighs. I love a curvy, conscious, nappy-headed, intelligent, can throw down in the kitchen black woman. Oh, yes, I love a beautiful black woman. Oh, yes, I do. Oh, yes, I do. I am a man with the urges and instincts of any other African man. But at the same time, the God in me, the deity in me, the divine in me dictates that I control that root chakra and control those natural urges towards reproduction when I see a sister who needs more than that. And a true alpha male, A true alpha male can say, you know what? Not this time. Not this time, not under these circumstances. I'm going to be a source of masculine support for this black woman, no matter how beautiful and single she is, and I'm not going to let it turn into a useless sexual escapade where she goes home feeling used and abused. I'm not talking about a sister who is only interested in having a friend. That's different. If a sister just wants a friend and she's cool with that, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sisters who you know are thirsty for a husband, thirsty for a meaningful relationship, thirsty for a long-term relationship, and you are not the one to give it to her. Can you just stand by her as a brother? Can you be the shoulder she needs to cry on once in a while? Can you be the brother that gives her the hug once in a while? See, the reason why some of the coons in the chat, the reason why some of the beta males in the chat can't understand, overstand, or understand what I'm talking about. The reason why some of you beta males in the chat can't understand, overstand, and understand what I'm talking about is you have been mentored by beta males who have positioned the black woman as their enemy. You have been mentored by beta males who have raised you to believe the black woman is your problem. I had a beta male say earlier, Dr. Umar, black women been in charge of the black community for 60 years. No, she hasn't. The white man, has been in charge of the black community for 400 years. The black woman is only...
But here's the issue with that. A lot of our women were complicit in castigating their own men. They were complicit in selling them men now. They bought into the lie of the Lyndon B. Johnson administration. And, you know, unfortunately, one of the politicians said that the black woman is the backbone to the black community. That is an insult. Shahrazad Ali, she even talked about it herself. And so we're going to have a show afterwards, and we're going to continue this discussion. Guys, click on the link after the show. Let's have a discussion, because something that's going on in our community that's more or less morphed these 12 so-called beta male YouTubians. So let's finish having this discussion.
A manager of the black community. And the only reason why she is a manager of the black community is because the war against black men, which is waged by the white man, is sending us to the prison and to the cemetery. So the black woman had to step in and assume that role. The black woman don't want to be the damn alpha male in your house. The black woman don't want to be going crazy raising your children. The black woman don't want to be crazy teaching her daughter about sex and dating and pregnancy and birth control and STDs. Do you really think the black woman wouldn't rather be doing something else? Do you really think she want to be working 2 and 3 jobs to get the bills paid because your ass is locked up all day?
There were plenty of sisters that tried to cancel Iyanla Vanzant, and many don't like Shahrazad Ali. You know, in the theology, it says let the older women teach the younger women. And so when you have the elders, these older women that try to teach some of our younger women how to be ladies and to conduct themselves so they can get the love and the protection of men. Because the beer virus proved that a lot of women were not getting the love, protection, and adulation of men. But every time, because the black church is not being complicit in their job, but when these elders try to more or less convey matters of truth, they are often chided. And so how can we have a vibrant community? How can we have black men and black women loving each other when brothers, they're going to be on the platform tonight, share their consternation, and nothing is heard? Iyanla Vanzant is an elder. And if an elder is getting chided, and if an elder is not being listened to, do you think they're going to listen to us as men? Keep listening.
And I'm not blaming you, black man. It's a war on us. But what I'm telling you, stop making the black woman the scapegoat for the white man. And if you feel that you have to make the black woman the scapegoat for the white man, then why don't you just be honest and say, listen, I'm scared of my oppressor. I'm scared of the white man. I don't want to challenge him. I don't want to fight him. I'm scared of my oppressor, so I'm just going to blame my sister. I'm scared of the white man, so I'm just going to blame the black woman. That's what that's the truth. Tell the truth. You scared of the white man, so you're just going to blame the black woman. Can we tell the truth? Can we tell the truth? Because that's all you beta males are doing, trying to make the black woman the scapegoat for what the white man has done to you. The black woman does not control the school system. The black woman does not control the criminal justice system. The black woman does not control the legal system. She does not control the economy. Just tell the truth. You have been mentored by beta males who have made the black woman the scapegoat for what the white man has done to you because you are afraid to challenge your oppressor. That's why when the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy is open, there will be code of conduct on this campus. There will be a code of conduct at the Frederick Douglass High School. There will be a code of conduct at the Marcus Garvey Elementary School. There will be a code of conduct at the Nat Turner and Jean-Jacques Dessalines Gymnasium. Black power. Yes, sir. Shout out to Wilmington, Delaware for standing by the prince. And black woman, I want all my black women to know something right now. I am not condoning your bullshit. My beautiful African queens, I'm talking to you right now. I'm not condoning your bullshit because some black women are on some bullshit. Some of you play keep away with the kids. Some of you take good men to child support who was already taking care of their kids. Some of you will bring good brothers into your life and you use them as an emotional crutch just to get your baby daddy or ex-husband to pay attention to you. I am not condoning the bullshit of black women. I am not saying that the black woman does not have faults, because the black woman has faults just like the black man has faults. But I am concerned about the example that black men are sending to young black boys right now in this country. I am concerned about the message that black men are sending to young black boys in this country when a 16-year-old girl gets 4 shots to her heart. When a 16-year-old girl gets 4 shots to her heart in Columbus, Ohio, and a whole bunch of weak-ass, no backbone having beta males will get on the internet and defend a white policeman. Will defend a white policeman who shot 4 bullets into the stomach of a 16-year-old black girl. I cannot condone that. No damn beta males. All these young brothers out here claiming to be masculine. All these young brothers out here claiming to be masculine, and all you doing is attacking women. I'm seeing entire threads on social network of black men talking about everything wrong with black women. That's not how we act, brother. White people are watching this shit. White people.
All right, enough of that. I think you guys have heard enough. The conscious crowd, Brother Gene Davis. There's a pathology going on in our society. I want you to, Mark, you come on in, brother. You know, so we got my man Mark Monplaisir. I think I said it right. Don't slap me.
That was good.
I'm good. All right, I'm gonna get my French together, man. And so this brother made a book called "Tell the People About Your Book," Brother Mark. And I want you to tie it to the show tonight, because these so-called 12 beta male YouTubians are more or less a manifestation of frustrated men. So give me your points of view or points of reference as it relates to Dr. Umar. Tell me what you agree with. Tell me what you think is wrong. Why are black men now speaking up in platforms like YouTube?
Certainly. So the book's name is Strong Women, Fed Up Men, Defeated Sons, Broken Daughters, Healing Generational Pain. I got to see a little bit of the video of what he was saying. First, I want to say, you know, generational pain. I'm echoing. I'm not sure why. I got to see a little bit of the video, what he was saying. First, I want to say, you know, generational pain.
Yeah, if there are any guys that have the YouTube link, please close it so we can finish the discussion. If there are guys that have the YouTube link open, please close it. Close your YouTube link, please. Go ahead, Mark.
All right. So, you know, one thing I want to say first, you know, I think when I hear stuff like that, you know, where somebody speaks on one side of the issue, right? I don't think that's going to get us anywhere as a whole, as communities, because I feel like we all need to do this together, right? When I listen to stuff like that, it just makes me feel like we have two different people, right? It's like we have black men against black women and black women against black men, and I don't think that's that's the way to solve the problem. So what I talk about in my book, which is pretty heavy on healing and understanding your purpose and understanding the history of black people as a whole and where we came from and how we got here to where we are today.
Right.
Not understanding that, we all went through the trauma, in spite of the fact that, well, in the 60s, 50s, 70s, it was different because we had a common cause to fight for. You know what I'm saying? So after all that, when black men started getting incarcerated and black women had to take over and take care of the children, when the social welfare system came in and, black women felt like they had to kick the man out in order to get the help. So a lot of the things that have happened, happened to us because we were hurting, because we were placed in bad situations. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like we have to find a way to heal together in order to get to a better place. And again, that requires, self-accountability. We have to work on that. And as far as, the video we just watched, there were some truth. He said some things. I do, definitely agree with the fact that, we have to protect each other. I have a daughter. I definitely feel like, well, having a male presence makes a huge difference. Having somebody in your life that, you can protect you and love you without the sexual aspect of it is very important. So I do agree with that point. You know what I'm saying? And the other things he said about, I don't want to say he's not. I know at the end of the video, he said some things, to black women, but at the same time, when you go on that long rant about, what black men are doing, what they're not doing, and the beta males and all that, I don't think it helps.
Right. Right. Well, in your book, you talked about fed up men. Why are men fed up? And then Ted Santos and Brother Gene, I want you guys to talk. Ted Santos actually created a book, and he's also the curator of a show called Straight Talk. He actually started his show because he felt like men weren't getting visibility. For Umar to make the erroneous or more or less the statements that he's made is somewhat problematic. So, Ted, I want you to give your input, but before you give your input, why did you write in part of your title, Mark, fed up men? Why are men fed up in America?
Well, I think men are fed up. The way I talked about it in the book, it comes from childhood. A lot of boys grow up without their dads, or they grow up with their mothers, and they were expected to be men at such a young age. They were expected to function as men when they were kids. So because of that, they get defeated from a young age, and by the time they become adults, it's like, well, I can't do anything to satisfy anybody, right? Especially if I grew up with a mother that, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't be the man that she wanted, or the man that she wanted me to be. So at that point, I'm defeated because I wasn't meeting those expectations. So by the time, those men end up being adult, it's like, well, I've been dealing with this for so long. I've been dealing with not having a positive male role model in my life since I was a kid. I've been dealing with having a mother that I couldn't please as a man. So at that point, you become fed up. And when you get to have relationships with the opposite sex, with the black women, and again, it's a continuation of not being able to please, the black women. And by the time you get to that space, you just fed up with having a relationship with a black woman, or, meeting the expectations of a black woman. So it's stuff like that. That's pretty much why a lot of men are fed up with, just the constant not being able to meet up expectations. You know what I'm saying? Not being able to be the man that society is telling us that we need to be.
Okay. Ted Santos, introduce yourself, please, brother. And I want you to tell people about your new book entitled Why Women Can't Find Love. Let's talk about this. And I want you to more or less try to tie it into the discussion about Umar Johnson and this whole shebang, and then also the emergence of Kevin Samuels. So let's talk about it.
So I'm Ted Santos. I'm in the business of producing miracles, and I do a lot of work with CEOs of middle market companies and transforming corporate cultures and working with them to create breakthroughs or quantum leaps in the growth. So not incremental, like quantum leaps. And Mark, I want to piggyback to something you said. You know, you're talking fed up, not meeting expectations, but there's another aspect. So a lot of guys, as little boys, their mother says, "You're the man of the house." And then what he finds out as man of the house, he has no power. She brings a man over that he doesn't approve of. And she, you know, you hear these boys, well, I'm the man of the house and you never asked me anything, or you're doing X, Y, Z. And if I say something, you just kind of tell me to shut up. So a lot of boys have been diminished and having the power sucked out of them as men. And that creates a problem as they grow up. How do I assert myself as a man when what I've learned that a woman can crush that power? So there's a lot of, I think, uncertainty about manhood, and the way sometimes they think it to come out is to be violent. You know, that's what it means to be a man. So men will only allow you to put them in a corner for so long before they come out fighting.
Yeah, definitely.
So yes, I wrote a book, Here's Why You Can't Find Love. And this book is, I wrote the book to do two things. One, to serve the business world, and two, to serve the retail, the average person, which you don't have a business without the average person. So corporations are losing $300 billion a year in workplace productivity because of one word, divorce. And people have a huge problem in knowing who's compatible. This has nothing to do with even race. You know, this is across the board. And if you think about in your company, at some point, a percentage of your employee population is headed for divorce. Another is in the middle of one, and then another is just coming out of it. So that's a lot of employees who are distraught. There are statistics that say productivity drops 50 to 75% when people are dealing with divorce. So yet you're still paying these people who are inefficient employees, and the company suffers. We're losing money because of lost productivity. So I wrote the book. One is the ultimate guide in helping people understand compatibility. When you understand compatibility, you're more likely to choose the right person. Right now, most people are choosing a significant other based on shallow, like everything feels good. Chemistry, you wear these clothes, you do these kinds of things, all the things that can change over time. But when you look at compatibility, these are your core values, like family values, and they usually don't change over time. So, but if you don't understand really who you are, so the book is designed to support people going through a journey of self-discovery in the way they normally don't. And that way it makes it easier for them to understand who's compatible. There are tools for more effective communication. And one of the biggest things that even executives and corporations say they wish they had, it's conflict resolution skills. So conflict resolution is critical in work, and it's critical in your relationship. There are a lot of relationships that may have had a fighting chance, but they didn't know how to resolve conflict, that were just really misunderstandings that blew up out of control because they had no way to manage it. So the book is written to do that. It's not just me talking. It's literally me with 5 women in a hotel in New York City. And I was invited to a party. I was the only guy. It was like 25 women. And these 5 women at the end, we had a very intimate conversation. So it's a very interactive and dynamic discussion. So now that I got off that, thank you, Seven, for giving me this space to do that. I don't want to diminish Umar. You know, he has done some positive things in the Black community for empowerment. But I think he may have, now I need to say something ugly about the Black community. The Black community is like suffering from addiction. And you know, if you do alcohol or heroin or crack, this is all to help you to feel good. So you're doing these things to feel good and not deal with whatever the reality is that's in your life. And the Black community has done that for way too long. Call me a queen, call me a king,
Right.
Inspire me, empower me, but never tell me that I'm 10 pounds overweight or 20 pounds. Now I'm 50 pounds overweight, 100 pounds overweight, and still tell me how beautiful and sexy I am, but don't deal with the fact that I'm killing myself because I'm 150 pounds overweight. So it's all this feel good. You didn't make me feel good. And so it's difficult to create power if you've got to lie just to feel good. And that power is a big missing in the Black community. And you just think about power, like you can punch someone with your fist. Everyone has a fist. Just because you have a fist doesn't mean you have power. When you watch a guy like Tyson, not only is his fist moving, his shoulder, his hip, when you get hit by Tyson, you get hit by his entire body. That's what makes his punches so powerful. And for the Black community to move the needle, they're going to need power where you've got to mass a body of people that can change policies. You're going to have to put money and numbers behind things to move the needle, as opposed to just tell me a lot of stuff to make me feel good, and we're going to go out and protest and do all this stuff. So what I think Umar has realized how irrelevant he's become with guys like Kevin Samuels. I started my talk show, Straight Talk, because I've been watching for decades how women have been talking about love, work, money, family. They've even defined manhood and never asked the man a single question and told us we ain't, you know what, and you know, I don't need you and all these things. And finally men said, hey, we've got something to say, and social media made it possible. And a lot of women are in shock because they're hearing things that they've never heard from men. Men have been in silence. Like I was giving the example of the son who's told, you're the man of the house, but be quiet, you have no power. So now men are speaking up and women are in shock. Like we figured out how to silence you, but now you're speaking up. So Umar has become irrelevant. I think this is more of a publicity stunt. I mean, he's got no relevance in what's happening. So whether it's Kevin Samuels and we all know that Derek Jackson got, you know, we see the hypocrisy that he played. But I think Umar is seeing that he is completely obsolete. And there are some tough questions and tough challenges that need to be tackled head on. No more intravenous feel-good medicine. We've got to deal with it if we're going to actually have power with an entire body and mass of people who are going to move the needle. And I'll just say one last thing. We can look at what the Asian community just did. They didn't go out and protest and say no hate crimes against Asians. They went to the legislators with money. They went with power. They went with people who put money behind. They paid lobbyists. They went to Capitol Hill. They had bills passed, and now they have laws on the book. And that is the move that Black people need to make. Protesting and marching is like slapping. But if you want power, you want to punch, you want to have impact, you've got to put a lot velocity in a body of people and money behind it. And I'll shut up, man.
Brother Checkmate, if you're watching, come on in, brother. Come on in. We had one guy that came in, but he popped off. Checkmate, if you're watching, come in, brother. Click on the link. Click on the StreamYard link below. And if there are other guys that are watching, I want you to share your concerns, because as a clinical therapist, we know that most of in the clinical world is surrounded by what's called feminist theory. And a lot of times men are minimized in the clinical profession. So I want guys to give their voice, because as a clinical professional, I've seen men being marginalized and minimized, not only in profession, but also in the home. So we got my man, the Conscious Crab, Brother Gene Davis. He can feel stuff. And, one of the things, I call Umar, Umar's a Leo like me and Mark. Leo's got big egos, man, the God complex. So I think Ted might be right. I think, Umar needs to retire back to the land of Oz because they ain't got no more courage. But go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, Mark and Ted, you guys made some great points. I want to piggyback off the point that Ted made because it's a huge disconnect in the Black community. People don't realize that the access to power is accountability and responsibility. Right. So if you don't take you have no power in any situation that you take no responsibility for. So Black people are chasing their tails, trying to access power minus accountability and responsibility. It is literally impossible. It's insanity to even try to do that. But I want to really address what Umar said because he annoyed me. And the reason he annoyed me is because his whole argument, he destroys his own argument. I mean, think about it like this. Before social welfare and feminism, right? After, during the Jim Crow era and all of that, the Black community people were married at a higher rate than white people. We had a higher marital rate, lower out of wedlock birth rate. When feminism came in and social welfare, that is when the Black community fell apart. And I'm from that era. I saw plenty of women, drop their men because the men, basically you had guys who were making, low wages, and welfare was about the same. Get into an argument, get out. I can have welfare, and have the same lifestyle. And not only that, now I can have men coming and going if I want to. I don't have to be under the authority of a man.
Right.
And so this is what happened. And so now we're at a 78% out of wedlock rate. 60% of women with more than one child have more than one baby daddy. But I want to address his beta male comments. Just stupid, because you cannot have beta males without single mothers. A beta male is the byproduct of a single mother. The single mother culture is a byproduct of Black women choosing feminism and social welfare. Their choices. So the very thing that he's trying to absolve them of, there is a documented history and timeline with numerical data showing the rise of out of wedlock birth rates along with single motherhood with welfare and feminism. They are tied together. So this was created out of choices. I mean, you can go to any Home Depot or Lowe's in this country and see little Hispanics, illegal aliens, waiting to be picked up to go to work. And these guys, their wives aren't getting on welfare to leave them. Their wives aren't bucking against their headship because they don't make much money. These guys leave the house with their lunch and everything they need for the day because the wife made it. The wife stays home, takes care of the kids, respects the husband. Respects the husband. And this whole idea that headship and not headship, but submission is connected to money. Whose Bible says that? The Bible says if the husband loves his wife as Christ loved the congregation, that alone, he has earned the right to lead her. That's true. The Bible doesn't say anything about money. Right. It doesn't say anything about position, about status. If he falls on hard times, his headship doesn't go away. He doesn't know because you're not making, you know what I'm saying? The absurdity of so many of these arguments would not exist if people actually just read the stuff that they say they believe. You're a Christian, but if you're a Christian, then why is nobody saying this? I know Umar is not a Christian, but most of the women that follow him are. 80% of Black people are Christians. Right. So why are women talking about they don't want to be under the headship of a man who isn't a high value man or a six-figure man? That's not what their Bible says. Right.
And that's the dangers of the whole high value trope, because if we continue to harp on the high value trope, then what are we saying to the men that are earnest workers? Are we saying they are less than? That's almost like Ted and Jane and Mark. If you guys got married again and your wife lost her breast, she had a double mastectomy. Is she any less a woman? Should you love her less because she had a double mastectomy? And so this whole high value thing, man, in my mind, this is my personal opinion, and I know Kevin Samuels has got his own definition of high value. But a high value man is an honest man that works hard, takes care of his family. I understand there's a financial metric behind the whole high value thing. I get that. But the true high value man, in my opinion, even though I'm a professional man, I was catwalk bougie before I came a professional man, meaning that's the bourgeois. I get that from brother Mark Monplesser. But I'm catwalk bougie, meaning I was blue collar before I became a white collar professional. And so it's the blue collar man that has built America to make it what it is. So in my mind, the true high value man is the blue collar man. It ain't the guys sitting in corporate America, even though they play a role. I'm not trying to minimize them, but I'm talking about the laborers that have built this country, built the bridges. That's what I'm talking about. They're the ones that make this world, like the song by the stylists said, people make the world go round. Whereas the blue collar man that makes the world go round.
Yeah.
How much? Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry, Gene.
Yeah, I wanted to address it. I mean, what it's not really Kevin Samuels' definition of a high value man. I mean, if you look at the criteria, and me and Mark, we deal with these guys all the time.
Right.
These quote unquote high value men. It's just a compilation of criteria that, men that women basically,
No, I understand. No, I understand. I understand, Gene. I understand what you're saying.
These guys have their pick of the litter because of that they meet all of this criteria.
Right.
So that I don't think that no one can diminish you unless you give them the power to.
Right.
So if someone calls that person a high value man, if I feel diminished, that's on me. That's not because they, I have a choice whether or not I react to that in an emotional way and take it on. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like that. That's where they're at. That's where they're at. I've been in that lane. Right now, I'm not in that lane. I mean, by Kevin's criteria, I'm not a high value man. I'm okay with that. But don't diminish those guys because they are.
No, not doing it at all.
I'm not saying you are, but what I'm saying is that is what's going on.
Right. I just think it's dangerous when we get caught up in that. Even though I know there's a boule and there's a metric that says a man make in the top 10, top 2, top 3%. I understand women do want those top tier earners, but what I'm saying is that it becomes superficial.
It's a lot more than just money. It's also network.
Right.
It's also, a high value man has to have what's called dick discipline. He can't if he has a whole bunch of kids and stuff. He's not high value.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He has to have a code of ethics. He just can't be because I got money and I can run around and have a bunch of kids. That's not really what it's about.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah.
Social class too. So a lot of women who may want those guys technically don't qualify for that social class.
Yeah. I mean, I think, for me, I actually just started listening to Kevin Samuels because I thought it was entertaining. When he talks a lot about high value, and again, you have to make a certain amount of money, which a lot of black men don't make, right? The regular black men don't make $350,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? So when that becomes the focus, you're pretty much not talking to 80% of black men in America, right?
And he says that.
Right, but that doesn't really solve the problem because the women who are calling his show are the 95% of black women in America, right? Who are making less than, $60,000 to $100,000. You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't really solve the problem. But I want to just say something about what Ted said earlier. A lot of, us, and then again, mostly black women in our community, they want to feel better, right? They do want to hear, the pretty things and the nice things that make them feel good. But if you say something to help them either do better or get better, they don't want to hear it. So a lot of guys, they take advantage of that. They're taking
Right.
advantage of
Right.
telling black women what they want to hear, and I feel like that's exactly what
Umar.
Umar was saying, right?
Right.
That's what he was doing to appeal to black women who want to hear,
Right.
well, Dr. Umar said it, then it's the
Give
truth.
me a vein.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? But again, so and that's why I said that doesn't solve the problem, because you can't just choose one side because, well, that's what you're gonna get the most likes or whatever out of. That's not the way to solve the problem. So for me, I do focus a lot. My book focuses a lot on the fact that we have to come together. You know what I mean? Like, we have to fix this problem together. Like, otherwise, it's always going to be black men against black women against black men, and we're never going to get anywhere. And when we talk about building communities, when we talk about just having a value that other people can respect, we have to work within ourselves. I mean, the Asian community was able to go to Congress and pass a law that to protect Asians, because they have the respect that white people respect. You know what I mean? Like, but
And the
what do
money.
we have? They have the money, right? But what do we have? You know what I'm saying? We don't even respect ourselves.
Well, the black community has the money. They're giving it to Asians.
Right.
Bills passed.
Exactly. I mean, I was having this conversation with somebody recently. With the amount of money that a lot of black people have, we could have built black communities. We could have helped communities get, just get to a place where, we could earn some respect by having respectful communities. But because it's me, right? I'm getting my money, or I'm in my bag, you know what I mean? Like, whatever slogan is out there, that's what we're focused on. And because of that, we're never gonna earn respect. We're never gonna get anywhere,
Well, there's
because
a
we
lot
don't
of
have
oh, go ahead.
no, because we don't have standard. You know what I mean? We have, well, this is my personal preference. This is my life. But we don't have communities where we come together and create standard for, ethnic standard. We don't have that. You know what I mean? So because of that, we can never come together and work together with the men and women and create something that, our kids and then their kids or whatever generation can follow suit.
Well, I don't believe that we'll ever have that. I'm an optimist, but at the same time, I'm a realist. And I don't see any seminal trends that we're actually trending upward. I think that the dangers of feminism has impacted our women in such a negative way that, I had a family member and I tried to give her some pointers, man. It seemed like the more I damn tried to tell her, it was like talking to a wall. And, and so, thank God I've been married for 25 years. It ain't always been peaches and cream. But we're going to do some anecdotal evidence soon. I'm going to Brazil, man. So I'm gonna be with Brother Al Grease and the crew, and I'm gonna take some anecdotal notes, and I'm gonna bring it back to the homeland as an expatriate, and I'm gonna top up some comprehensive game. But Mark, you're from Haiti, where the French talk about the bourgeois, and so the classism that you see here in America. How was classism in Haiti? Did you see it as much in Haiti?
It was the same thing. There's always classism, especially in Haiti. You have colorism, you have classism, you have, it's pretty much the same thing. But when you take any black community, it's the same everywhere.
It is.
It doesn't matter where you are, where you go. It's pretty much the same thing. Except, what I realized with, especially here, there's a level of freedom that, we take for granted and we're not ready for. You know what I mean? Because I think whenever we feel like we have that level of freedom, we don't really know what to do with it. And the same thing goes with Haiti. When the whole democracy comes in with, in the 90s, we weren't ready for democracy. We don't know what to do with democracy. And I feel like that's the same thing we do here when we had to fight to end, slavery, when we had to fight, for civil rights, when we had to fight, to end, black codes and Jim Crow laws. We had something, together to fight for. But when we feel like we have freedom, it becomes individual. It becomes about me. It becomes about you. You know what I'm saying? So, and because of that, we don't have this common cause that we're fighting for, because we take that freedom the wrong way. We take that democracy the wrong way. So when we talk about Haiti, yes, I mean, the mindset was different, where, I want to say men were in charge for the most part, because, men went to work, women stayed at home, and men were the breadwinner pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a different level of respect. You know what I mean? And I feel like when it comes to feminism, you can't be a feminism in a third world country.
Right.
You can't. You have to work with the man to create either family, or you have to work with the man to provide for the children. Otherwise, you're just gonna be at the bottom of the barrel. But here again, you have this men and women, we have this sense of, I'm about me, right? I'm gonna do me. And that's absolutely destroying the Black communities.
Yeah, but you know what? If you go back and you look at the Moynihan report, when they gave social welfare to Black women, they were, and I'm bringing this up because it shows really like how much this was able to undermine the community. They were in shock at how Black women gravitated to social welfare. They could not understand it. They did not see that coming.
Right.
And so when you look at any other community, that has just not happened. It's just not happened. And the reason I bring this up is because I'm going to give you 3 examples of places Black places where things were done differently because people were willing to take accountability. So South Africa after apartheid, Rwanda, and Angola, they had truth commissions. People had to come forward, say what they did. Basically, if you acknowledged your part in the atrocities, you were forgiven, and they were able to move forward. But here, nobody can take responsibility. Nobody can take accountability. You can't point out anything that people have done, like what I'm talking about now with the whole welfare thing. It blew their mind. If you point that out, then it's like, oh, you hate Black women, you're attacking Black women. No, these are historical documented events that happen. Right. And if you're not going to address them, then you're not going to fix the problem. No amount of dancing, singing, shouting, whatever, hooping and hollering is going to get it done. We have to address the actual issues that got us where we are. And if we don't, then we're going nowhere. And if you look at those 3 examples I gave you, that's what they did. Angola, Rwanda, South Africa. Three times where Black people came together, took accountability and moved forward. We can't do that here for whatever reason.
Well, it's interesting when you speak of welfare, and the Moynihan report was I think 1964, right? Okay. So what most people don't know is welfare was being distributed in the Black community in the 50s. And in 1957, a judge in Alabama passed a law because what he noticed women were abusing welfare. And what they were doing is they would have several children so that they can stagger, when the welfare, the checks stopped coming from the children. So he passed a law saying it would be a criminal offense if a woman on welfare has more than two children, and it would be a crime. But the other judges and legislators wouldn't let it happen. But he pushed hard to get that law passed. He couldn't do it. So I'm making that point to say this was happening before the 60s. It just became worse in the 60s. Like you said, they gravitated. 1938, 11% of children in the Black community were being raised in a single parent home. By 1964, it was like 23%, and like you said, it's 78%. So it's a problem. And the other part, and people don't want to talk about, is other ethnic groups also took welfare, And when they said, look, we're going to put your men out, those women fought and said, no, we're going to keep our men. Black women were the only ones who said, all right, you got to go, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw that. I saw that growing up.
That's where the problem really started. The other problem was, and I don't want to get sidetrack us here, what desegregation hurt the Black community, because what it did is you took the smartest brains, you took the money, they took it out the Black community and put it into other communities. So once those people moved out the Black community, they took their money and their brain power. And the kids who lived across the street from you, who used to have you as an example, as a lawyer, an engineer, or even if you were, a blue collar worker, who made a lot of money, those examples were gone. So the only examples of success they had was pimps and drug dealers.
Right.
And then you get women who are, like you're saying, not being accountable for, they can just have children with as many men as they want, and the checks keep coming. So as the first child turns 18, I still have 5 or 6 behind them, and the checks keep coming.
Right.
So that created a culture. Like really, it was like the birth of a whore culture, the stripper culture, and it's pretty apparent now. So I understand Umar is addressing some of that, and what we also have, and is even before social media, this whole thing, Black women went to an extreme with feminism, almost like men owe you. Yeah, I remember women saying to me, your father and your grandfather did all these bad things. And I was like, how do you know that? Like, my father and grandfather, they were not passing laws for, wages. So why are you upset with me or my father and grandfather? And so it was like they had a vendetta. So you've got to pay for what your father and grandfather did. So they were actually having men jump through hoops. The whole relationship dynamic became such a game that it had other consequences. And so we're seeing so like you pull one lever in an ecosystem and lots of changes can happen, but there were several levers that were being pulled.
Right.
Now we have a mess, desegregation, welfare, giving jobs to women instead of the men. And that what that does is you create, you displace the men. So what are we going to do? What if we go to the workforce is 75% women? That means a lot of men are unemployed. What are we going to do? Homeless shelters? So, this is the Black community. And a lot of psychologists and sociologists will say, we've got to put the brakes on white America and giving too many jobs to women, because we already see what happened in the Black community if you displace the men, because women won't marry unemployed men.
True.
Let me say something about what Ted said. So the first chapter of my book, I talk about the African experience, and that covers the background of how what you just talked about, the misunderstanding of Black men and Black women, and how Black women were blaming Black men for what they felt like they had to go through, when it was never really Black men's fault.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So and that, to me, started, my understanding of that, it started from slavery, right? When you had to watch, your women, your children, working day and night, right? Not being fed, or you had to watch your family members getting killed and you couldn't do anything. That also created a lot of resentment, right? So when Black men couldn't work and Black women had to, start taking care of the family, again, that's a lot of resentment. And when Black women started putting men out because of social welfare, again, that's a lot of resentment. So we have a lot of hurt that we need to heal. We have a lot of things that we need to work through in order to understand each other, because there's been a lot of traumas. You know what I mean? And I feel like until we get to a place where we can understand those, we're never really gonna understand each other. We're never gonna empathize with one another.
I'm gonna tell you, man. Let me just say quickly.
Go ahead, Ted.
I was there in the Black Power movement of the 60s and 70s. So this has nothing to do with slavery. That Black women abandoned the Black Power movement. This whole Afro and the natural was the culture. They took the jobs and straightened their hair, and the feminists said, now you have a welfare check and you have corporate welfare. Corporations are giving you jobs. You don't need your men anymore. And they bought that. They bought it.
Right. But what I'm saying is that doesn't, if somebody who's healthy, emotionally healthy, you're not going to fall for something like this, something that's going to destroy you in the long run. There's no way you're going to fall for something like that. Am I right?
Well,
there's got to be something wrong to feel like, you know what, if I put you out, I'm going to get money, and that's going to replace you helping me raising our kids.
Well, so maybe there's another component, but from 1944 into 1964, that was the greatest economic prosperity in the Black community. Right? So there, people know about Oklahoma. There were Black Wall Streets all over the U.S. Right? So they clearly had gotten over that stuff. Is what I'm getting at, right?
Right, but
if anything. So you hear people talking about reparations. Maybe the psychology behind welfare was, I'm getting my reparation check. I'm getting something for free. I just wonder if that is what was really like, I'm getting a free check. And it's like a reparations. And they went with putting their men out. And other cultures didn't feel like that, like they may have taken it as a reparation. This money's owed to me.
Right.
I don't think that the people and put it this way, in my experience, the people who typically did that sort of thing, they weren't that conscious to be like, this is reparations. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some of these, and you're like me, you're old enough to have seen the families where generation after generation in the projects was, the mother was on welfare, then the daughter is on welfare, then her daughter, you know what I'm saying? Like, these people typically are not like the whole, like a reparations mentality is not kind of what they have.
Well, what I'm really getting at is that if you lived through that Black Power movement, it was a very different world. Like, we have nothing close to it right now. Right. So it's not. We keep saying it's slavery. I'm saying that the Black community had gone so far past slavery. If you saw the Black Power movement, I was there. I was there in Newark, New Jersey when riots were happening. I was right there, and I watched families fall apart after the whole welfare, man. The way we keep saying slavery, but the Black community had gone. They prospered during Jim Crow. The feminists used such powerful propaganda that they pried Black women out of the Black Power movement.
Let me say this, guys. Hold on, Mark. I'm gonna let you come in. Hold tight, Mark. So guys that are watching, thank you guys. I'm extremely honored to have you guys watching as I'm looking at this show, and we're going in a few minutes. So the guys that feel like this show has been beneficial, please donate to Seven Smalls. Go check out Mark Manplacer's book, and also check out Ted Santos's book. And we're gonna have the Conscious Crab get this show started at some point. You know,
I want to make one.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna let you hold tight, guys, real quick, because I want this show to be under an hour and 30 minutes, and you guys are doing a great job. But please donate to Cash App 7 Smalls. These shows are very time consuming, but I have a love and desire for the brotherhood. That's why I do it as a clinical therapist, because there is some functional some trauma that's been in our community. I did what Mark is trying to say. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. And I know what Ted is saying, but I think what Mark is saying, that even though they were functional, they were still traumatic, but they were just more or less functional in their trauma. And so right. I guess what Mark is saying, that there are some underpinnings that were never addressed, and they were able to function. Because you're right, Ted, we were doing great in spite of the issues that we had. But what Mark is saying, that some of the residual effects of trauma were never addressed from slavery. Some call it post-traumatic slavery disorder, but we were so resilient, we were able to overcome in spite of. Am I correct?
Right. So here's the thing. When we talk about, black people were doing well economically, some black people were doing well economically, right? We can't say all black people were living well. That was not the case, right? So when I talk about the emotional, or, I mean, just the mental health aspect of it, it's almost like if you were raised by an abusive parent, you say, well, because now I'm 90, I shouldn't feel the effect of that, right? Unless you work through it, that never goes away. You still have that trauma with you, regardless of how old you get. So my point is, even though slavery ended a long time ago, even in the 40s, in the 50s, they were still lynching black people, right? So there were still a lot of things that we had to deal with as black people. So regardless if some black communities were doing well, we still had things to fight for. And which is why we felt like, well, you know what? I wasn't part of the white man's world. I wasn't part of white people. So now when you feel like, you know what? I've been at the bottom of the barrel. Now I'm getting some money. And for black people, when you've never had any money, when you seeing some money, you go for it.
That's true.
Right.
I
And
see
again,
your point.
right. So, again, because you don't see the value in families, you don't see value in communities. Right now we have neighborhoods. We barely have communities. You know what I'm saying? So because of not seeing that value, because again, we don't see the long-term effect of how this was going to turn out. And again, because when you give black folks, right, the freedom to choose whatever they want, hence the feminism movement, right, you will be destroyed because you don't really understand. And a lot of it, they put it in place to destroy you because they know how you're gonna react because of that freedom, right? Because of that whatever choice they feel like they're giving you, because you've never had it. It's almost like you had a lion, you let that lion out of the cage. They're gonna do whatever they feel like is freedom. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a level of education that we need to have as a whole for black people. There's a level of healing that we need to go through in order to get rid of a lot of the traumas that we got from our parents, right? From whatever we had to go through during slavery that we've been passing down from generations to generations. And I feel until we understand all those things, there's always gonna be some subconscious issue that we never really gonna not understand, because we're looking at the surface of what's happening now. We're looking at the symptoms, but not necessarily the problem, the illness.
Right,
right.
I think it's multifaceted. I think what you and Ted are both saying is correct. I think there was some residual trauma left, but I think what Ted is saying also is that there were some women. It's almost like the angels. Some angels kept their place and stayed with God, and some left their place. Some women were just selfish. They abandoned the community because excuse my language, they just didn't give a damn. They didn't give a damn. They just abandoned the community because they didn't give a damn. And some don't care now because, see, the LBJ movement actually played to the woman's base nature, which is hypergamous, which is based on Brefault's law. And so it played on her base nature. Her base nature is survival. And also a lot of that was a thirst for power. She wanted to be like Miss Ann. Miss Ann was the wife of the plantation owner. And so black women have, in my opinion, some have secretly always lusted for the power position that the white woman had. But also there were good women like what's the heavyset lady? I can't think of her name. She was a civil rights activist that more or less adhered to and actually was loyal to the black man. What's that black lady name that was in the civil rights from Mississippi? What's her name, Ted? Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer, the Fannie Lou Hamers of the world. She said, "Look, I'm gonna stand by my man. We go because we're mused together. Black men and black women. I've always said this were mused of the same cause. But the poison of feminism, what it did, it has deconstructed the psyche of a woman. And what's happening now, guys, it's almost like that's why Ted got his show. That's why as a clinical therapist, I started the kosher clinician because men weren't being heard. Actually, Ted influenced me. I mean, I've always been vocal, but I started looking at his show, Straight Talk. And Ted could be controversial, but what he's saying is true. And so even when I'm doing this controversial, because as a clinical therapist, most are very liberal. They don't talk about these salient issues that we're dealing with. They actually are quiet about it. And so it's almost like black men have got so angry, they said, the hell with it. So now you see all these this counterculture movements of black men actually voicing their concerns through what's called a virtual barbershop. We're saying what we normally say in unison, and it's being mushroomed. And so the black men that have had, more or less a stronghold on some of our women, they don't like what we're saying there because we're uncovering their malfeasance.
I want to address the original question, and Ted, to me, hit the nail on the head early on. He said Umar feels irrelevant.
Right.
And I 100% agree with you, brother. And this is why I say that. Okay,
I agree with that. I agree.
You guys have your books. You are creating. Kevin Samuels created his own economy. All Umar has done in the last 10 years or so is beg for money. That's all he's done is beg for money. Think about it like this. Elon Musk created SpaceX and went to outer space and stuff and back before Umar created his school and had kids in it. I mean, that's crazy. Like that's crazy. This guy went to outer space and back before Umar created a school. He took all this money. He has very little to show for it. So he's irrelevant. And to me, his position holds no water for all the things that were said here tonight. So it's pretty obvious to me who has credibility in this debate or argument.
Marcus B., you're joining the platform, brother. I want you to give your critique. Once again, there's a countercultural movement where black men are actually speaking loud, starting platforms, and we're having a virtual barbershop. There was a time when black men had barbershops within the confines of the physical, but now we're doing it virtually. I want you to pontificate your point and more or less give insight to this argument. What's going on? Is Kevin Samuels right? Is Umar more or less pandering because he's irrelevant, as Gene said? Give me your point of view, brother.
Kevin Samuels is dead on point.
Mm-hmm.
Umar Johnson is like what the brother said, and my apologies, I was just driving.
No,
I believe it was said a couple of times before. This guy is just fighting for relevancy. And we all know the playbook when it comes to if you're trying to stay relevant in this black community, is that, hey, attack the black men, kiss the BWs, you know what. And it's come high time, because I'm observing as I was listening, and my apologies, I was out and about just listening to the show, and
you're fine. You're fine.
But I believe everybody's around my same age. I'm 43, so it's high time that it's pretty much game over.
Right.
It's either going to be we're going to talk about the entire issues that includes the issues of the women,
right?
Or we're not even going to talk about it no more.
Right.
I'm not going to waste my time no more with this. If I remember correctly, I believe several people may be in the same Facebook group that I'm in that travels.
Right. BGO.
And beyond, BMO.
So, right.
And that group is solid, other than last weekend, if you recall some of the horrible questions about carrying something in another country, and then are we still supporting our black women? I'm supporting everyone that's on my allegiance
yes,
and
sir.
on my side.
Right.
If you have the same color skin as me, but you still talking about the foolishness like we heard last week in the chat about carrying something, I can align myself with you. If you're on that same level, and it doesn't have to be financial, it's like what Kevin Samuels said with the high value, 10,000 per month for 3 to 5 years. I'm on the hit squad, so I have 1 more year to go.
Right.
And of course, the power level and everything. I have no problem with people of a diverse group. But I'm black men first. We always hear this thing about black community. Let's put everybody together. But then there's always this side about black women, this black girl magic, all this other stuff.
Right.
We can't put nothing into black men.
Right. That's true. That is very true.
If we're not going to have the conversation where we're going to talk about bringing up the black men, I'm not going to have the conversation, no, because I got better things to do with my time. And I'm sorry if I'm changing the tone this conversation, because I understand we try to keep our frustrations down. We're trying to talk intelligently. I'm tired of hearing this same merry-go-round with nothing improving, because we're trying to have our voices heard as Black men, and now it's this whole what's the best word to say it? Now we got to shut up again. I'm not shutting up no more.
Right.
I'm going to take my money, my pocket, whatever I got to do, even if I got to go away from some family, and I'm going my own way.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to align myself with the brothers and the sisters that are on that same mindset. Otherwise, you got to go.
Preach.
Oh, I agree with you, brother. You know, it goes back to from the clinical lens. By Mr. Watson, he was he was part of the clinical behaviors theory movement, and he said that needs drive behavior. And so, in reality therapy, which is mostly used for juveniles, when you're getting your needs met, then you're more willing to comply. But now men are frustrated because they're not getting their needs met. And so, brother, I salute you. I salute any man that exercises his options. You know, I'm married, but I'm actually going to Brazil to take some notes, and we're going to film live. I'm going to be down there in May. But men are exercising their options, man. You know, men are looking for women that are part of their program. You know, like I was saying earlier in the show, women like Iyanla Vanzant, which is an elder, has been silenced. You know, the gospel said, let the older women teach the younger women. But they shaming the older women. They shaming women like Shahrazad Ali. You know, when she speak out, they want her to shut up. So they're very rebellious. It's not all the sisters. Look, I'm saying there are some great women out there. So kudos to you. We love you.
And let's not do that no more. We ain't got to do this preference no more. You either are good or you're not. I'm not. No more disclaimers.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have to disclaim anymore.
Right.
If you are in that circle, take your medicine. Otherwise, get out of here.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough, brother. Fair enough.
I don't want to hear that anymore. It's not all stuff, because I understand we try to be politically correct. We all got jobs. Some of us have careers. Some of us are entrepreneurs. So I do understand the money is affected.
Right. Fair enough.
But no more of this not all stuff. No more of this. I gotta pander to you with some type of, just like you gotta give a kid some type of jelly when you give them the medicine. You gotta chew up the pill. Eat the damn pill.
Yeah. You always got to say, but not all, not all.
Right.
But
right.
not all.
Marcus is right.
It may not be
He's
not
right.
all, but it's becoming the majority.
Right.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is that they're always expecting you to give that qualifier. Like you can't.
Exactly.
You like, for instance, 78% of 78% of kids are born out of wedlock, but they'll say, well, not all. Why do I have to say not all? We know not all, but 78% is a majority.
Right.
So why do I have to say that?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Nobody said nothing when Kevin Samuels was talking about the men, because anybody that's been around and followed Kevin Samuels and the Black manosphere, like I have, and it's been at least maybe 4 years now. Nobody said nothing when he had Samuels
for a long time.
And I've had him on my bookmark when it came to certain videos, LER movement, BGS, certain other ones on my bookmark for my motivation.
Right.
And and it's just like from when, like you were saying, the barbershop, the locker room. Hey, nobody was pulling punches then. If you're terrible, you're terrible. You either got to get your stuff together or you're going to still stay on the bench.
Right.
So I had to hear all of that stuff. I took all the medicine, I applied it. And now I'm at my best levels now, and I'm looking to grow into the future.
No doubt. Respect, brother.
So if they don't want to do that, which I'm listening through social media, what levels of respect should they negotiate with men? Not doing that no more. Music, all this Cardi B and all this other stuff. Sorry if I'm dropping too many names. You don't want to respect the man. You don't want to respect the man that works a 9 to 5, in which the brothers, the ones that give us the ability, who don't know how to change a battery. I don't know how to change a battery, but I know how to pay a brother to do it, because that's how the system works. So I can be in my car, I can be in my crib with the air conditioning and everything else, who actually built this country, the blue collar brothers. So I can do a white collar lifestyle, playing golf and do whatever I want to do. I have much respect for them, but we got to hear our sisters talk down on them.
They do.
Hell
do.
no.
They do.
Hell no.
You
It's
know
high
what's
time for them to take some medicine, and it needs to be a lot of it. Sit there, get better, and then come back to the table. Because we're not marrying you. We're not.
Nope.
It doesn't matter how good you look. There are women in
Right.
other countries that look a whole lot better, and femininity,
Right.
which is not a cuss word, by the way.
Right.
I looked up all the bad cuss words. Femininity is not one.
Yep.
You know,
Facts.
it's interesting. So I lived in Mexico for about 2 years, and of course, you know, I was in relationships with women in Mexico, and these women had money. One woman was from a rich family; she was rich, and the other woman had a business. She never worked for anyone. Her mother started a chain of souvenir shops, and when her mother died, she just took it over. So she always worked for a family business, and still, these women had a very healthy attitude towards men, towards sex, and understood that as a woman, there's a role that I play. There was no like, well, I make money and I don't have to do that. She was like, no, your clothes need to be washed. You need to eat. You shouldn't be, you're like, if I don't do these things, I'm a bad girlfriend. So and they're making money.
Yeah, it's a completely different mindset, man. But Mark, when you brought up Miss Van Zant, she actually is leaving. Not Mark, Seven. She's actually leaving the air because of Black women, because of how she's being attacked. Because that needs to be stated. Like, yes, she's leaving, but she's leaving because Black women. She's just tired of them of dealing with them attacking her because she holds them accountable. Like, so it's and no one ever says this, but me and you, Seven, we've had this conversation. The only person that can hold Black women accountable is white men.
Right.
It's the only person that can hold them accountable. They don't listen to nobody else. Anyone else says, anything anyone else says is invalid. But he can say the same exact thing, and now they're willing to make changes. But when it comes to us, it's just not possible. When it comes to other Black women, they're pick-me's. You know, they can't hold them accountable. Nobody can hold them accountable except him. And he's not interested.
I question that. I question that. See,
what?
Black men are afraid to tell Black women no. They're afraid to say go.
Who?
Black men are afraid to say no to Black women. They're afraid to tell them go.
Oh, no, I'm agreeing with that. I said white men can hold them accountable, not Black men.
I'm saying no, they forget. This has nothing to do with them. You got to get, it was not white men who ran a PR. It was their women who did that.
No, I know that. But what I'm saying is that they
I understand you 100%. I understand you 100%. What I'm saying, it's until Black men draw a line in the sand and say these are the boundaries, and you stay over there. Look, you left the community, and that's how we're going to deal with you as treasonous, as people who abandon the community. You want to be respected by us, you come back to the community, and when you come back, you follow the rules of engagement or get out.
Right. Oh, I agree with that.
Black people need to take that kind of stand.
Absolutely.
Have a stand of masculinity. White men can't do this because the Middle Easterners that live here, I live in a town that's got quite a few, and it's the men that create the rules. They don't play rights.
Exactly.
No, I agree with you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Black women get so much more respect from Black men than in the treatment from other women of other races, Asian to men to women. It's not even comparable.
You're correct.
They still want to use these talking points though.
Right.
Here's the issue. Here's the issue with that. Most Black men are being raised by women. Right.
True.
So
Very
there's
true.
always that's where the issue lies, because if I was raised by a Black woman,
hold tight, guys. I'm about to go get some water. I'll be right back.
All right. So my first priority for a lot of men who are raised by single Black women is to protect women, or because I don't have that that masculinity in me to talk about Black women, because I look at that as a disrespect, right? because of that single black woman who raised me. So I think, how do we bring black fathers back into children's lives, right? Because that's partly how we're gonna solve the issue. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Gene has a daughter, right? I mean, he's not with, you don't have to be with the child's mother if you can't be with her. But how do you stay in your child's life?
Yeah, but Mark, I was married to my ex-wife. A lot of these women were with guys who didn't even want to be in a relationship with them, much less.
Right. But
you know what I'm saying?
Let's talk about why.
A guy to be someone who he's not. Like he was never that person.
No, Gene, I hear you. But let's talk about why. Sorry, Ted, 1 second. Let's talk about why, right? So you have those girls, again, who are being raised by their moms without fathers. They don't know who to choose, right? It's a cycle. So they choose the same boys who don't know how to have a relationship with a child. They choose the same boys who don't know how to be men, right? So you end up having, you get pregnant, by a boy who doesn't know how to take responsibility for anything. Now you mix that with a girl who's broken, hurting, who doesn't know how to take accountability for herself. So now you keep repeating that same cycle. So how do we break it? You know what I'm saying? Because older women are not teaching younger girls how to be women anymore.
Right.
You don't have fathers teaching boys how to be responsible men anymore. So how do we break the cycle?
This problem started before you had a single mother problem.
Okay.
This problem of the bigger problem is black men are too liberal and accepting. So when black men, I watched this.
That's true.
I watched
very true, Ted.
A long time ago when black men in the 70s and the 80s were like, hey, and these were not men who came out of single parent homes. They were like, well, black women had it hard and you got to give them a break. You got to cut them. And we kept cutting them slack. Part of the problem, black men contributed because they kept one-upping one another. Hey, that guy took you to a date. He took you for ice cream. I'll take you to ice cream in the movies. And the next guy says, well, I'll take you to dinner, movies, and the next guy, I'll take you to the Bahamas. I'll buy you a car. And women got accustomed to that. One of the things that hurt it, that crushed the black community, was the drug dealers. I went to Howard University. When those guys who hung out on the corner and dealt drugs came on a campus, black women were like, get away. And I watched this one guy sit there with his Mercedes. And when a woman went out with him and came back and said, he gave me money, he took me to the most expensive restaurant, then other women started trying, and it became an epidemic. It's because they were willing to give the woman. Now, that's when you were having maybe single guys coming out of single homes. But I'm saying black men are too accepting. And they're too willing to loosen the reins and say, well, the boundary's here. Okay, well, I'll move it a little more. I'll move it a little bit. Women exploit that.
Right.
At those ages, we're learning too. At those ages, you're absolutely right. And we're in the classrooms, they're knowing everybody else. But we're learning too at those ages. I've done exactly and been I don't want to say victim. I've lost women to the drug dealers and all this. I'm sure we all have. That's how it goes. Right. But it's all a process. But exactly as you said, brother, we cannot adjust our boundaries. Here's the boundaries. Here's the standards. Either meet them. I have a nice day.
Well, you know what, Marcus? Marcus is 100% correct. Marcus, you're 100% correct. You're very fiery, man. You must be a fire sign like me and Mark.
Man, I'm energized right now.
But you're right, though, and I'm gonna tell you why you're right. In behavior psychology, there's a such thing called an equilibrium, right? And so in an equilibrium, there's a positive reinforcement, there's negative reinforcement. So the person that defers to the power makes the other person stronger. And so I think Ted talked about it. We got a queen culture where, unfortunately, the woman is exonerated as the queen. But see, look at it from the lens of theology. I'm not trying to push religion, but for those that believe in it, the Bible actually told the man to rule over his woman. He told the man to be the head. He told the man to lead. But men, like you said, I don't know, I think Marcus and Mark said, because men are raised in single parent homes, they don't know what true masculine authority look like. And I think it's also based on generations. Like I'm Gen X. I'll be 40 and 50 this year. I'm getting old. I'm a dinosaur. You know, Mark is a tweener. You know, Mark and Ted and Gene, they're like cuspers. They're between Gen X and Boomers. But we're like the elders to some degree. I'm a smooth elder though. I got swag with my eldership. You know, I ain't got my cane yet, but my point is, man, we have to divest. Mark, you exercise your options, brother, by divesting. You don't feed into it. Because if they are excoriating elders, I remember a time, guys, and Ted and Gene, you know what I'm talking about. Men didn't look at women that had kids. I know I did when I was in high school. If a woman had kids or she had several partners, I mean, we just didn't look at them. They were sitting as nothing. We didn't even look at them. But now you got guys that don't have any kids and they're married. And look, I'm not trying to denigrate women with kids, but my point is, if you're going to denigrate a man for his height, if you're going to denigrate a man for his penis size, if you're going to denigrate a man for if he stayed with his mom, he's trying to get on his feet. But then why can't men say we want women to our standards and like? And I got a good friend of mine, Dr. O. McCoy. And Dr. O, you need to come in because you're a woman. I need you to come in, Dr. O, and set the record straight. She's a woman. And she talks about her and I are similar age. And women excoriate her, you know. They get mad at her because she said, you know, some of y'all look like a loaf of bread or a potato. But y'all demanded that men make six figures or have X, Y, Z. And so I agree with Marcus B 100%. Men have to divest. If we start letting some of these women see that, look, give us taxation, give us liberty or give us death, if you ain't going to taxate us without representing us as men. And I think we're going to start getting outcomes that we want. Go ahead, Gene.
I want to address that. That's the thing, is that Black women have an official divestment movement, and I know you know about this, but the reality is Black men are divesting.
Right.
There are 800. Earlier this year, I don't know what the number is now, but it was 847,000 more married Black men than Black women. Now there's 2 million more Black women in this country. So when you take that into consideration, we are marrying out way more than they are. And Black men aren't on social media saying these guys are just walking away. And what Black women don't understand is that the guys who are still on social media, you know, dialoguing with them, that's because these guys still care. The ones that don't care, they're gone.
Right.
They're gone. And they don't realize that they're pushing more and more guys like my man here, Marcus, who eventually say, you know what, I'm out.
Right.
I'm out. We have the options that they do not have. Our sexual marketplace value, despite everything they've done to make us unappealing to women, if you are a productive brother, you have a good shot at marrying, you know, someone else who's going to respect you like a man, like any other man wants to have.
Exactly.
You know, this is just this is just part of being human. We're not asking for anything special.
So there's a bigger problem that Black men don't want to discuss, and it's part of the divesting, and it's related to what I was saying. Black men are going to other countries, and they are going to DR, they're going to Colombia, Brazil, and they're literally creating the same women they're running from. Because they're going to other countries and they're being too generous. They're being way too generous with money. Over there. And what they're doing is creating women who have a sense of entitlement. So those women lived in an ecosystem where the men had a protocol for how they dealt with their women. Yeah. Men from here go down there and one up them, and now women have new expectations. That's what happened here.
That's true.
So if so, you can go to another country, and then the women are going to be entitled. So then you got
right,
and another. At some point, you're going to have to put a line in the sand and say, here are the boundaries. The other part that no one wants to talk about is when Black men go to other countries, they understand how Black women disrespect Black men. So some of these women in other countries believe they have license to disrespect. Now, their disrespect won't be as bad as what you see here.
Right.
And this is where Black men are too liberal. They're too
I totally agree.
had authority over the community, so they don't move that way unless you like. I grew up, my dad, my father has 15 brothers. My mother has a brother. Like, I did not see, and me and Seven, we've had this conversation, like the way that, and my mother was, in addition to that, my mother was raised by her father. Her mother left her and 5 kids, took one with her to New York from Alabama, and my grandfather raised all of them. So my mother revered her father. My mother had ultimate respect for men. So like my whole life I've clashed with Black women because I grew up in a very different dynamic. I grew up around a bunch of masculine men. My dad, my uncles and my mother treated me and my brother like men from the time I can't remember when she did not. But these guys don't, they're the exact opposite. And they have mothers who teach them to put women on pedestals because they want to be put on a pedestal. And so these guys run around simping with every woman that they come across. I mean, so I agree with you. That's a problem. And whether you're here or you're in another country, a simp is a simp.
Yeah, I said something like that. So go ahead, brother.
I just want to ask a question. What lines are we talking about when we're talking about? And I'm sorry, the brother in the gray jacket. I'm not seeing names because I'm on the Internet Explorer. So when we're talking about simping in other countries or creating the monster in other countries, what examples do you mean by that?
So actually, let me answer that. So when I was getting married, I was told that just keep in mind, remember that the woman is always right. That was the worst advice.
Perfect.
That was the worst. That was the worst advice.
Exactly. Me and Mark had this conversation,
right? Because
keep going. He's keep going.
Yeah, because you're essentially telling women that you're a child, you can't reason past what you believe, because nobody's always right.
Nope.
Right. So it's that kind of culture that Ted is talking about. We put women on a pedestal, said, it doesn't matter what you do, we'll romanticize it. It was fine. It was cute. It was, it was nothing. You know what I mean? And it's partly because what I've noticed, a lot of men were raised to love women, not necessarily how to love a woman.
And that's out of a 2-parent household, so it has nothing to do with single.
Right. But here's
right.
Even with the 2-parent household, if you have a lot of mothers with single women mindset in relationships, raising kids, right? Yeah. So when you have that mindset, it doesn't matter if you have a man in the house, you're still raising the kids. A lot of men living with a woman can't say anything to the woman.
That's true.
They're not the man in the house. The woman is.
Right.
Right. So it really doesn't matter if you have a man around if you're single. It's all about the attitude and the mindset, because I've seen a lot of women, in relationships with their husband, but the husband can't say anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's still a choice. But you're right. It's still a choice. You're right. It's the old trope. If mom ain't happy, ain't nobody gonna be happy. Happy wife, happy like that. What I call that goofy shit. But that was on my turn, because I say what I want to say in my home. And I say, I love my mom, but my mom can get this work. So I don't care who it is. I'm a man in my house. I don't do all that tolerate. I got sisters, and I would check them too. And so I still tell men, it starts with y'all. It starts with us. We were here first. God made us first. If you believe in theology, He made us first. And men start being men. And I agree with Marcus B. Continue to exercise your options, brother. And if you haven't joined the channel, Mark, please like, share, and subscribe, man. If you like what we're doing, man.
And I agree with the brother saying. You do it at a manly level when you exercise your options, and you're doing it at a leadership level.
Right.
None of this pedestalizing, none of this queen stuff, none of that. That's why I wanted to ask that question, so that we want a clear understanding as far as what's actually treating a woman right and what's actually simping.
Yeah. I want to share my experience that, along with what Mark said, as far as like getting married, because I think you guys will find this very interesting. So I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens, but I moved to Long Island you know, in my early teens, and I grew up there. So my network, Long Island is very Republican, very white. So my network was a lot of black and white people. So when I decided to get married, I went to white guys that I knew that had been married. My criteria was 25 years or longer, white guys and black guys. So I'm talking about 12 to 15 guys total. I kid you not. Every single white guy gave me all different types of advice. Every single black guy told me, happy wife, happy life.
Happy life.
Right.
Do what she tells you to do.
Right.
And get this, there was one white guy who was married to a black woman, and he told me the same thing as a black dude. My mind was blown. I could not believe it. It blew my mind, bro. It blew my mind. Like every black guy told me, if you want to be happy, do what she says.
Yep.
Every one of them.
I was told the same thing.
And white guys spoke from the position of like the head of the family.
Right. No,
That
you're right.
sounds like misery. That
You're
sounds
right.
like misery.
You're right, Gene. You're right. And see, what men don't understand, there's a psychology behind deferring power. Women are by default designed to look up to you. They're designed to look up to you. So when you defer power, you're actually making yourself weak. It's really contraindicated because you would think by listening to them, then you will get what you need, but actually they're losing respect for you.
Exactly.
Am I right or wrong, Ted?
Yeah. And they resent you. They
resent you for it. Right.
That's the point.
I've got more love and respect for my wife when I said, excuse my language, damn it, you gonna do it my way or you can hit the road. Because I'm 6'5" and chocolate like Nestle's quick. So I'm not worried about them. I ain't worried about
I'm saying it's got to happen. It's got to get uncomfortable like that sometimes.
This is what I'm really working to get across. I've been in relationships where I've said to women, this is the way it goes. And they say, so we always have to do it your way? That's not fair. And I say nothing because I don't have to justify what I'm saying. But here's the deal. They don't say goodbye. They stick around because, and I'll say, look, if we do things your way, I'm telling you, it's going to be messy. So I'm not following, and I don't want a woman to lead me. The way our brains work, Seven, you can tell them, women worry about way more things. They've done all kind of neuroimaging. Women's brains go in different directions and they worry about things that men don't. We're more focused. And it's not demeaning women, it's just acknowledging there's a huge difference between our biology and neurobiology.
Right.
We're solutions oriented. We're not going off feelings. We want to find a solution.
Right.
We don't want to talk about problems all day. I'm trying to find a solution to the situation.
Women's brains literally make up problems when there's no problem. Is what I'm getting at.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
It's not even about solution or not. It's like someone said hello, and she's like, "Oh my God," blah, and a guy just heard hello. That's it.
Right.
Or let's not even forget the smile aspect of everything.
So what I'm really saying is that it's men who are going to have to take a stand, and you see it. Listen, I lived in Latin America, and Latin American women have no problem with you taking a stand and being a man. They might get upset and they may complain. They might even be the jealous Latina, except when it comes down to it, if you hold your ground, they'll respect it and they're going to go with you. Black women will argue with you more, but I'm even with black women, if I hold a hard stand, sometimes I have to be so harsh that I push them out. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I just made it easier for the next guy. If all black men did that, if they were willing to say goodbye on their terms, then the next guy she goes to, if he does that, at some point they're going to start getting into alignment. But as long as she knows the next guy is just going to give me what I want, even if I let him sniff it. See, black men hold having sex. They put too much value on that, and they're willing to do anything. So when they go into Dominican Republic, they're disrupting the whole dating ecosystem. They're giving women money. They're buying them gifts. They're sending them money, Cash App, and these women will be down there having 5 men sending them $100 a month, and living large. So so when you ask, for example, That's what they're doing. When I lived in 8 different countries in Latin America. I did not disrupt that ecosystem.
Right.
So there was a dynamic. I understand you know, this woman is going to fall in line. And if she steps out of line, you check her. And you check her hard. If she's bullheaded, and she'll respect it. She knows that. I say the big difference is when they get out of line, they know they're out of line.
Right.
The women here won't do. They'll just keep, you know, I'm not going to say anything. And men accept that. So if you say, all right, you got to go. You want to be right, then right down the road.
And you know what? And I'm gonna add to Ted. Ted is 100% correct. Women only respect strength and power.
Exactly.
I'm gonna say it again. They only respect strength and power. And I'm gonna say this, and I know some guys don't believe in theology, so I'm not trying to push religion. Believe what you want to believe. But when Jesus met the woman at the well, he told the woman, he told her, he said, woman, he said, get up. And she respected him because he spoke with great power and he spoke with great authority. And that's all they respect is power and authority. And I tell guys, when you stand on your square, when you say what you mean what you say, their vaginas get wet by standing on your square. Some of them might not like it. And so you win either way. If she don't adhere, you win because you got rid of her. But if she does adhere, you win. So either way, you're going to win. And I'm saying this to the younger men because it's going to take older men like me, Ted, Gene, and Mark B. And Mark, you're a puppy, man. You know, I'm lying though. You're a puppy. But young pups like Mark Placer, it's going to take us to teach the younger men because the younger men have been indoctrinated by a lot of this nonsense. I had a cousin of mine, guys, and it was so sad, and I ain't gonna call her name out. But while we were talking, she said, well, the only thing I need a man for, he need to make sure he has some money. And I said, so you mean to tell me if he's a decent man, if he don't have the money, he got to go. So in a way, she's reduced herself to whoredom to some degree. She's reduced herself to whoredom.
Yeah.
Am I right or wrong, Marcus B? She's reduced herself to whoredom. And so
that's the definition. They don't want the term, but they want to hear the definition.
Right. And see, Marcus, you and Mark are from, I think, Gen X. I think you guys are Gen X. Not Gen X, but you guys are like tweeners. Y'all millennials. I think, Mark, you're a Gen X. But I want you to share with the young men what you saw, and I want you to share with the young men the mistakes that you made as a young man, and what did you learn from those mistakes as it relates to relationship and women.
You ask me?
Yes, sir. I'm asking you, Marcus.
Okay.
And also Mark too.
It all came from the ability to develop. I had to associate myself with masculine men. Being on the football team helped. And then when it came to get out there, taking your lumps, figuring out what works and what doesn't work, having an example of what is an actual husband, if that's what you eventually want to be, and then you model yourself to get into that mode to get like that, and eventually make yourself a husband as well. I may not be saying the words in the most fluid way, but that's where I'm just going off the excitement still. But at the same time, when you're vetting a woman and you're choosing a woman, you have to learn exactly what qualities work for you, and you find those out usually as you're getting older. From elementary school, you start interacting with girls and you start figuring out exactly how they're actually developing it as well, because everybody's developing. So you're not going to be the same person you are at 20 that you are at 40. But at the same time, you want to learn the lessons from the older generation, and you want to learn examples from what to do as well as what not to do.
Right. Mark, you're a tweener. You're a Gen X and millennial. What did you learn in your relationship dynamics that you can teach the younger men that are listening? And then Ted and Gene, I want you guys to come in. Then we're going to end the show. And so once again, guys, the guys that are listening, please, at your earliest beck and call, please donate to 7 Smalls, Cash App 7 Smalls if you can. I love you guys. You guys are doing an awesome job tonight. We got the numbers up. I really appreciate it. So I want you, Gene, and first, Mark, give the younger men, because I think the younger men are supposed to teach the older brothers. I mean, younger men. So tell the younger men the mistakes that you made as well.
I think what I realized, a lot of the things I said earlier, advice I was, received, I applied them and letting the woman be right. and not requiring respect. Because when you feel like you're doing the right thing to allow the woman to always be right, you lose respect from her. And I think for me, just not understanding the dynamic of how masculine I needed to be, and how much I needed to just to hold my own ground. Definitely, made me lose. Well, I mean, so I a lot of respect was lost for me because of that, because I allowed a lot of things to happen, and not demanding the respect that I know I should have received from somebody I was sharing my life with. For somebody who, younger guys or whoever's trying to get into a relationship, is to understand really who's gonna, who has the same value as you. You know what I mean? Who understands your values, who can work with you to create a culture that's gonna help you and the family, and not just that individual, to fulfill their selfish need. Because it's gonna be harsh to say, but a lot of women can be very selfish. Right? They can be very, it's all about me. You have to do this for me. You have to make me happy. You have to do this. You have to do that. But that it doesn't matter what you do. If a woman is not happy with herself, you cannot make her happy.
Right.
And I had to learn that the hard way.
Very true.
I committed to making someone happy that could not make themselves happy, and I paid for it, dearly. So I learned a lot of valuable lessons when it comes to choosing a partner, and make sure both you and your partner, whoever you're choosing to share your life with, that you're both emotionally healthy. Otherwise, you're just not gonna have a peaceful relationship. You know what I mean?
Respect. Brother, so before we continue, tell the guys the name of your book again, Mark. What's the name of your book again?
It's called Strong Women, Fed Up Men, Defeated Sons, Broken Daughters, Healing Generational Pain. And you can find it on my website, healingvibes.org. You can also find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and eBay, pretty much wherever books are sold.
Is it on Audible? Is it on Audible?
Not yet.
Okay.
But you can get the PDF version as well.
And so Gene, give your point. Then Taylor, I want you to bring it in, and I want you to tell the audience about your book again, where they can get the book from. These guys are doing a wonderful job trying to disseminate knowledge to bridge the gap for those sisters that want to listen. Gene, what did you see as a young man, and what would you share to the younger men that are listening on how they need to more or less exude masculinity and demand what they want? And if you don't mind sharing, what did you learn from your prior relationships, as is a double question, where you made mistakes, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I don't mind sharing it all. And I'll talk about my marriage, because that was my longest term relationship.
Right.
Like I told you guys, as a young man, I didn't realize I was growing up in a different situation, but I was. So I saw men being men. I saw men as heads of households. I saw men making decisions. I saw women submitting. And even my mother and my father split up when I was 3. My father was always around. My mother always encouraged a relationship with my father, and my mother always spoke highly of men, and she treated us as men. So to this day, I've always kind of clashed with a lot of Black guys, because I just don't think like them. They kind of, they think like they're like women. They're emotional. They get butthurt easy. And you know how I am. You and Mark both know how I am. You know how I speak. Mm-hmm. And I'm like that all the time. And I'm not emotional. I don't get butthurt. I'm a logical person. But over time, the more single mothers, more men raised by single mothers you have, the more guys are like that. So I'm very careful about like who I connect with and hang out with, because I know a lot of guys, I hurt their feelings hanging out with them. But as far as my marriage, my ex-wife was Cuban, and she grew up in a traditional Cuban home, and her father, he worked. The mother stayed home. So, and my ex-wife, I have to qualify this by saying my ex-wife, she was in her first year of medical school, and she's a doctor. She became a doctor during our marriage. She's a doctor now. She has her own practice. She's very successful. But despite that, because of how she grew up, like her and every Latina that I've dated, which a lot of my significant relationships were Latinas, they respected me. And the ones who had the father in the household respected me as a man. My ex-wife, total respect, supported me. She didn't even know what I made until we got engaged. Never asked. Had no idea what type of money I was earning. Never asked the question. Now, the mistake that I made was this. I assumed that she was going to always be who she was. And even though at one point when she was in residency, this organization reached out to me as her husband, and they paid for me to go to Phoenix to attend this like seminar about like how to stay relevant in the life as the spouse of a physician. And when I went there, it was me and one other guy, and it was probably like 50 women. And the whole thing was like, these doctors, they get a God complex, they get big heads and blah, 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 and you become disposable. And this is how you stay relevant. And in my mind, I'm like, God, that's never going to happen with my wife. She's not like that, blah, blah, blah. And I really wasn't on top of my game as far as like monitoring how she was changing as she went through this process. And when she started practicing, she's really smart. She speaks 2 languages. People, she did very well right away. Like within a year, she was a medical director. And like in 2 years, she was medical director over like 4 different clinics.
Wow. He froze.
You froze.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead, Gene.
So, but I did not monitor. I didn't stay on top of like how she was changing. And I looked up one day, man, and it was like, she had kind of become like the women we're talking about. Like she was so used to bossing people around and telling people what to do that she was trying to do that with me. And I would be like, who are you? And she's like, I know, I'm trying. It's hard. Like we had these conversations. She would say it was hard for her not to do it. And then one day, you know what she said to me? She said, listen, this is who I am. I like who I am. I'm not changing. And I said, really? Well, I don't like who you are. And this is it. And I divorced her.
Wow.
But so my mistake was not monitoring how she was changing and figuring out a way to work things out. And also I've always been that, I've been criticized a lot because that is who I am. A lot of times I was just in relationships. I had one relationship that I went back more than once. Usually I'm done and I keep it moving. And, I have a daughter. Like I didn't try to work things out. I just cut her off and divorced and left. And I look back on that. Could there have been something that I could have done? And how could I have done a better job of knowing where she was at in talking things through so that maybe we don't end up divorced.
All right, brother. Excellent, Mark. I'm Gene. Ted, break it down for the old heads and the young heads, brother. We're gonna take it home, man. Tell the guys about your book. Where can they find it? And then bring it in.
What you said is really powerful. Like whether you call it monitoring or so. Some people might think I'm a little bit odd in some ways. As a child, I heard men in the family saying women should come with instructions. So at 9 years old, I literally started doing research into human behavior, into women. So and not only did I read stuff, I would interview the friends of my mother and my aunt's friends to validate, I'm 10 years old, I'm taking notes, right? But at least in my head. So it gave me a huge advantage. So I ended up dating mostly women much older than me. And I kind of took advantage of that because it allowed me to say, you're the oldest, you should know better. And these are the boundaries. So I learned to create boundaries with women very early on. And if you violate the boundary, these are the consequences. And this is what men have to understand. Once you give a woman boundaries and consequences, you have to enforce them.
Right, right.
Because if you don't, she knows she can step over that, and you'll put another boundary, and she'll step over that. And
true.
And she'll, whether she has to use sweet talk or set whatever she has to use, it becomes like a game. And now she's lost respect for you.
True.
And the other thing that you were saying about monitoring. I lived with two women. The first one was 5 years. The second was 3 years. I never married. And for the record, I come out of a 2-parent household. So on one hand, I saw my father lay down the last word for some things. But on the other hand, I saw entitlement from my mother. And the very interesting thing is I saw my mother and many other mothers who were much more caring and nurturing mothers. But by the early 70s, you saw the erosion of that, and you saw anger starting to come out of nowhere, like just angry with men. And I'm a boy. You don't know what's happening. But like I said, I'm studying human behavior, and I'm watching even some of the journals and things I'm reading. I'm seeing some dynamics that are changing with women. So a lot of my relationships were, I've never said this publicly, there are really more experiments to show proof of concept that there's certain method out there's certain things that you can do in a relationship and they work. And I went to another country and they worked in another country. They work with women older than me, younger than me. And so I've seen that there's certain things that you do to make it work. One challenge with women is that they're more easily influenced by outside sources. There are a lot of guys going through divorce because of third-party interference, and that may be what happened to you and your wife.
Yeah, my ex-sister-in-law.
Right. So it's I don't have a solution for that. The best is you really have to sort of be on top and talk to her and make the boundaries known and consequences clear and follow through with them. But a lot of and you can't be afraid to check your woman. For a lot of guys, they kind of have to go back. The first woman you need to check in your life is your mother.
Right.
And I know that's
yeah,
a harsh thing. That's a
very true
thing for people to hear.
That's true.
My mother at 16, she didn't like it. She exploded, but I didn't know the word entitlement, but that was the conversation. So, and it doesn't mean you're beating up on your mother. There's just certain things that are inappropriate, and don't be afraid to check it.
Right, right.
So that you can do the same thing with your woman. Happy wife, happy life, that doesn't work. And a lot of guys like you are getting the same advice, which she's always right. All that does is diminish men intellectually, and then to be told things like, why pay for the cow when you can get it free? Well, that diminishes us sexually. Like, a woman is getting me in sexual pleasure. So there are a lot of things that men need to unlearn and just completely dismantle and develop their own manhood, I would say. So I think I've been very fortunate. Maybe part of it is because I did a lot of experimental relationships, even living together. If there's a lesson, if there's a woman who's really committed and you, like you were saying, compatibility, you've got to know where to negotiate with things. Even though you have boundaries and consequences, sometimes too much rigidity can cause for her to lose some of the affinity. So I may be like on the opposite end of the spectrum, like, being too rigid instead of letting the woman be right. So I'll say that. So,
well, listen, guys, this has been a phenomenal show. I'm eternally grateful for Marcus B for coming on. He dropped some gems.
Can I throw one more real quick?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
One thing that I did not hear said that was a big mistake. I've actually lost a friend behind that as well. Don't fight another dude over a chick.
Oh man.
True. Very true.
Do not argue with a dude over a chick, baby daddy, any of that stuff.
Right.
I had one. I've lost one. I'm talking dead. As well as if a chick chooses another dude, that's between you and the chick. That relationship's over. Let it go and move on.
Right.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we.
No, you're right, brother. That's excellent, man. I agree with you 100%. Many a men in the grave, man. But once again, man, I do this because I love the brotherhood, man. You know, I felt like as a clinical therapist, there weren't a lot of venues for men of color, but just men in general to vent. And because of that, men were internalizing their pathology. So I count it an honor to be able to advocate for these brothers. And once again, if you guys like what's going on, please donate to 7 Smalls, Cash App 7 Smalls. Thanks again to Brother Mark Monplaisir. Ted, you're a phenomenal brother. We got to do this again. I'm going to bring you back on the 27th. We can promote your book. Why is it hard to find love? And shout out to the Conscious Crab. He's always dropping gems. We're going to get his channel started, the Conscious Crab. And Mark, man, it was a pleasure, man. I really enjoyed you, man. I enjoyed your insight. I think you did subscribe, but if you didn't subscribe, please subscribe to the channel. Please donate, man. And it's a pleasure, man. I appreciate it, brother. It's a pleasure having you on. We're going to do this again, and we're going to continue to talk about these seminal topics. I'm going to do a show called Honor Thy Father, because we live in a culture where men are not honored and validated. Wow. And that's going to be a powerful show. If you guys come back again, please do. So we're about to sign off. And guys, please tell 20 other men about this channel so that they can tell another 20, because I want to get to 1,000 subscribers by May. So we're about to sign off. Mad love, and it was a pleasure. All right, so guys, hold tight. Let me run this ad real quick.
Pleasure, guys. Thanks, brothers.
4 in the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, let's kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say